It's the Poojie Podcast, proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club. What is going on, Pooj crew? Thank you for being here for episode 108 of the Poojie Podcast. Excited to be here as always. I feel like I've said that 108 times because anytime I get to podcast and talk football with you guys, it makes things a lot better in the world. So we're excited to be here. Got some guests lined up, some familiar faces. First and foremost, just want to say shout out to Jessica Otto and Matt Maynard on Instagram for winning the Poojie three-piece combo meal of the week. They will be getting some merchandise heading their way. If you want to compete in the contest, go check us out on Instagram at the Poojie Podcast. A very simple contest. You pick the winner of a game, you pick the over-under, and you pick total turnovers, and whoever gets the most right wins for the week. It's that simple. You fill it out on your phone, you post it to your story. But anyways, thank you for being here. If you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to subscribe, like the video, share the video. If you're watching live with us right now, please feel free to comment. Last week, we had a lot of comments that I did not see on my setup. Hopefully, they show up this week. I'd love to answer everyone's questions, and be sure to go follow us on Spotify, iHeart, and Google. But without further ado, let's welcome on the guys, Sam and Jacob. We are missing Sam. It looks like your microphone has disconnected. Did you get it working okay?
Yeah.
Okay, now you're good. You're good. You look confused. Right. You looked like the Jaguars out there on Sunday. You looked a little confused.
Well, yeah,
how are we doing, fellas?
We're doing good. Because it's like a few days after the fact.
I was about to say, good thing we took a break day to really just let our thoughts mellow out real quick before we jumped on here with just hot takes and fiery topics.
Dude, I was so mad. Even, like the first quarter of the game, my roommates were like, "Dude, you're being like irrational," but I was just like, things are already not.
No, this is, yeah, you're right. This is how it always goes. This is, you see the first drive, you see the second drive, and you're just hopeful that things are going to turn around and that was just a little rust still on the body of the offense. It didn't look good. I think there was like a timeout in the first minute of the game for the Jags on offense. There was just a lot of miscommunication. It looked like the 2013 Blaine Gabbert-led team out there. Urban Meyer looked lost. Maybe one of his worst performances as a coach in his career. But just everything all around, I'd love to highlight some bright spots. But let's just start off with our thoughts. Jacob, if you just want to just take me through your Sunday from about 12:50 onward and just what was going through your head, how you were feeling during this entire debauchery of a game.
Well, first off, like let's ease up on the brakes on saying it looked like Blaine Gabbert. Come on now, like don't do Trevor like that. But going into this game, I think I said it last week. To me, it wasn't going to be make or break for how the season will go. But obviously, once you play, you're excited, you have high hopes, and we come out and we want to see some positive stuff. And it looks like, in my opinion, the veteran players on the Texans came to play. Like I said, let's not overlook the fact that they have Tyrod Taylor, Mark Ingram, Phillip Lindsay, Brandon Cooks. Like these are guys that have been in the league and done it before. And they came out and produced. We came out and we looked like we had some issues. You mentioned a timeout early. I think there was a second one within the first quarter as well. Usually, I think the first one or the second one had to do with like a delay of game call. They called a quick timeout, and the other reason it just looked like it wasn't set up right. So hopefully moving forward, we don't see more of those things. Hopefully Urban Meyer's like, you know what? This was awful. We need to get it corrected whether you like it or not. And they come out and they're going to play a tougher team. But just like we won last year on our first game and then we looked like trash, we don't really know what week one means until the whole season plays out. So I'm going to give it time, and I'm going to see what they do.
Yeah, hopefully they would just treat it that as the fourth preseason game since we missed that this year. So hopefully that was the case. Sam, jump on in. Tell me your thoughts throughout the whole thing. You've kind of already rattled off a little bit of stuff, but I wasn't with you. I could picture you being a little irrational, but how did that go for you?
No, it was just the play calling was kind of just, it's your rookie quarterback's first game. I don't think a lot of people would feel this way, but I don't think that your rookie quarterback should be throwing, 51 times a game.
Now, do you think that was the case just because Yeah, and
Yeah, we got you, Sam.
Well,
do you think the case of throwing 51 times is less because that was the game plan, or just more because it got so ugly early? I mean, if you just keep
dude,
running
this
the
started
ball,
on
it
like
look like
this.
you're not even trying.
Right, I get it. Like the first 2 drives of the game, you're not like out of the, you're not losing. I get that they had a game plan to throw the ball, but like I think at the end of the game, James Robinson had what, like 5 carries, and like
That
the
was
first 2
blasphemy.
drives. Right, I get that, but the first 2 drives, I'm pretty sure that both running backs only had like 1 carry. And it
Yeah,
was
I
just
think
like,
there was a point where I think we had 9 straight passes in like the first 2 drives, which was pretty wild. I mean, us as Jaguar fans, we kind of like it because we want to obviously see what Trevor Lawrence is all about. But honestly, Jacob, to answer your question, my thoughts on it was this. Urban Meyer comes from the college ranks. He comes from 2 programs at Florida and Ohio State where if he ever got down a touchdown, he had the weaponry, he had the firepower to be able to say, you know what, we're just going to sling the rock, come back real quick, score a touchdown, and boom, we're back to even. I think he almost tried to employ that same strategy on Sunday where, okay, no matter how far down we get in this game, we have the offense to come back. And that's kind of what seemed to happen. I mean, we saw at Ohio State when they would get up big, they would feed Zeke Elliott, they would feed whoever it would be, and they would just ground and pound and win the game. Well, Urban Meyer hasn't really coached from behind that often in his career. His mindset must have been, okay, let me just see what I can do, unleash our rookie quarterback, throw it, Marvin Jones, Shenault, Chark, whoever. That's kind of what it looked like to me, was he was just trying to play catch up really, really quickly, not realizing, okay, if we can run the ball and establish an identity, we can still make that touchdown. We can still come back from this deficit, and he just didn't want to go there.
Yeah, it was like, right.
Go ahead.
Jacob.
I was just going to say, I pulled it up, and I'm just looking at like pass. Like everything was a pass on the first drive, and we punted, like you guys said. And then once we get the ball back, it's pass deep, then a run, then pass. And like a lot of these. So there was a lot of passing early on before the game was out of hand.
Like and most of it was like, the stupid wide receiver screen was run like 3 times, I'm pretty sure, before our first like actual handoff. And it's just like,
yeah, can Shenault not run a route past 10 yards? Like, what is going on here? Shenault is like literally they're and I'm not blaming Shenault for this. It's like they're handcuffing him to like the line of scrimmage, catch the ball on a quick, 2-yard play and get 7 yards or whatever, which I get works. But, I mean, this is a physical guy. This is a guy that you should be able to hit over the middle. This is a guy you need to get in open space over the middle to make plays. And you're relying on your receivers to block for him. And that's what it seemed like the game plan was for Shenault. I'd be curious to know what his longest reception was as far as air time. I know he had some pretty breakthrough plays where he caught it on the line of scrimmage. But as far as the entire play goes, how many times did Trevor Lawrence throw it 10 yards to him or 15 yards to him in the air? It didn't seem like it happened much. They kind of reserved that for Marvin Jones, it seemed like.
And I will say this, because there was a tweet, and there were some drops, so we obviously want to clean up those. But on the bright side is I do think there's a positive outlook for Chark. Chark, at least up till like Sunday night or Monday night, was second in air yards across the league. And we saw a really nice touchdown to him, like a dart from Trevor Lawrence. I think they were targeting him on deeper routes. So hopefully if Chark continues to open up downfield, maybe some of those like shorter passes we're trying to get LaVisca involved with open up. But yeah, I don't want to rely on those early. I also look into the play-by-play. A lot of the passing that happened early seemed to do with first down like penalties that put us at 1st and 15 or 1st and 20. So we need to cut those out so we can, allow ourselves to use James Robinson early on like a 1st and 10, a 2nd and 5 or something. I'm curious to see how that will change, but the case of the drops definitely hurt Trevor Lawrence and the passing game, I feel, as well. And then once you just play from, farther distances, you almost lose the ability to use your running backs.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, if you're watching with us live and you're trying to comment, please comment either on my personal page, Justin Lamine, or on the Poojie Podcast Facebook page as well. We should be able to get those comments in the chat here to answer some questions. But you're completely right. They went away from their Pro Bowl back, James Robinson, extremely early. It seemed like maybe Urban identified the offensive line as not being capable to run block and just wanted to get Trevor Lawrence, the ball out of his hand quickly. But then, yeah, you're right. The drops. Like, how can you recap week one without talking about the most blatant errors in football? Like, even from a high school level, what people say is if the ball hits you in the hands, you got to catch it. And we saw Chark drop a few passes, one on the sideline. We saw him drop one on, like, it almost looked like a little indie route, like a little curl route right at the sticks. He dropped one. We saw James O'Shaughnessy drop one, who was Sam's sleeper going into this season. He drops one that would have helped move the drive. But when you're looking at, Trevor Lawrence, I think he played, for the most part, very well. We did not lose this game because of Trevor Lawrence. If anything, we lost this game because of the incompetence from the coaching staff and game planning incorrectly, along with malfunctions on offense, which were just blatant drops and blatant miscommunications at some points. And he had 3 interceptions. He also had 3 touchdowns. It is what it is. The 3 interceptions, that's almost like a product of making him do too much too early in the game. Like, when you're not getting yards, when you don't have guys catching passes, you're going to try and force things. You're going to try and make plays that maybe shouldn't be made. There was one interception that was very ugly. It looked like he was trying to go across the middle to a receiver, and the linebacker literally was just right there, and it was like, what the hell are you doing? But for the most part, like, the interceptions that he had, to me, felt like a product of him trying to do too much based on the game plan that was set forth by the coaches.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think about what Trevor did in his first game, there's like a statistic that it was since 2002. That was the last time a rookie quarterback started his first game and won. So it's not common at all for rookie quarterbacks to win their first start. And I think those 3 interceptions are balanced out by 3 touchdowns. So to me, if I see Trevor continue to do this, that's the problem. But I think he's the type of guy that will learn from those mistakes. He had like great recall after the game when they were questioning him on those, and he said, I did this here. This was my thought process. That was bad, obviously. Here, that was this. And like, he understood, what it was each time, what he did, and he's probably going to learn from it. And I wouldn't worry about it until you see him consistently make these mistakes. But I will say, looking back at that play-by-play, the first 2 times we did run the ball, they were both like 10-yard penalties we ended up getting. So it's like, I think if you want to call the game planning poor, at least read between the lines a little bit. We may have just put ourselves in bad situations.
Yeah.
With, like, dumb plays from our line. I'm hoping in the next game we will push that early, but yeah, we can't be having those. And I think Trevor, this will be a big game for Trevor. The defense should be better.
Yeah, and that leads me to my week 1 gripe every single season. Holding should not be a 10-yard penalty, just my opinion. No reason it should be 10 yards. It's a mistake that an offensive lineman makes. Holding happens on every play, whether they call it or not. There is holding on every single play. And for it to be a 10-yard penalty, especially for a team like the Jaguars, well, any team across the board, 1st and 20, that's almost like an auto punt for most teams. It's like, come on, like, how many teams have the offensive game plan to get out of a 1st and 20? Yeah, like, I don't want to like harm the teams that can do it, but at the end of the day, like, holding is one of those penalties. It's like, okay, a false start is 5 yards. Holding should be 5 yards too. It's 5 yards on the defense. If you hold and you're a defender, it's a 5-yard penalty. So why is it a 10-yard penalty for the offense? It doesn't make sense to me. It puts teams in very bad situations, especially on 1st down. Going into a 1st and 20, it's just not a good situation. Sam, thoughts?
The only thing I'd say is that, like, say you hold and it prevents like a sack. That sack would have been like 8 yards and a loss of down. So the fact that you only get 10 yards but no loss of down, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good point. You get a lot of points for that. Ding, 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 ding. Because that's a good point. I see what you're saying there. But
CC very intrigued.
We're in a day and age where, like, they're protecting quarterbacks like they're, gold, which is fine. But I mean, there's plays all over the place. I think it happened in the the Patriots Dolphins game where the Dolphins guy sacked Mac Jones after getting blocked to the ground, still made the sack, and he gets called for roughing the passer because he tackled him at his thighs. Okay, so these quarterbacks are protected more than anything. So I would say the NFL is probably like, all right, if they're going to hold and protect the passer, more power to them because we don't want to have them injured.
And I will say, this is a little less X's and O's, but was it not nice to like see Trevor Lawrence get some calls for him, like in terms of roughing the passer? I think I saw at least 2 or 3, and I was like, wow, like that was Minshew in there. He's not the big name. They don't call that for him, you know? They just like kind of let him get walloped, and it was kind of interesting to see us have a guy that was receiving those calls, and they were protecting him. But yeah, like sometimes I feel like you can get ticky-tacky with it. It's tough when you're 300 pounds, 250, and you're running as fast as you can to get the quarterback. You can't just stop on a dime to keep yourself from now doing it because you let go of the ball 0.3 seconds ago. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
And that whole thing, we've seen injuries happen to defensive linemen who they try to alter the way they tackle and they end up injuring themselves because they don't want to fall too hard on the quarterback or they don't want to hit the quarterback in a certain spot. And it's like, all right, are we concerned about, you know, the form of tackling? Are we concerned about how the defender's doing stuff? Or are we just simply concerned about the quarterbacks getting hit? Because if that's the case, just make sacks two-hand touch. Like, just make it two-hand touch to get to the quarterback, because if you're just going to call penalties every time a quarterback gets hit, or at least 30% of the time, then these defenders don't necessarily know what to do. And we've seen it all over the place with helmet-to-helmet hits and targeting, and offensive players all the time lower their helmet running into a tackle, and they very rarely get called for helmet-to-helmet, but the second a defender does it, now it's targeting. So it comes down to what are we trying to protect here as the NFL? If it's across the board, we're trying to prevent concussions and protect neck injuries, then lowering the helmet on offense has to be equal to lowering the helmet on defense. And we gotta figure out how to make sure that these quarterbacks stay safe, but also fair. Like, that Mac Jones penalty ended up being a 15-yard penalty. That's like a 25-yard swing in favor of the Patriots based on not getting the 10-yard sack, but then also rewarding the Patriots with a 15-yard penalty. Come on, like, that just does not make sense to me. That does not add up to me.
It's a very fast game. Yeah, go ahead.
That was a great play too. I saw that one. And dude, there was another play where the guy, like, I mean, he did everything right. You know, he like pushed off with his hands and he hit him right in the chest, and they still called a flag. So it's like one of the most subjective calls out there. And it's all the subjective calls you're saying where it's like, oh, well, I mean, you know, in one game it's a penalty and the next game it's not. How, as players, can
it's
you...
Like, you can't hit him
really
low.
follow the rules. Right.
You can't hit him low. You can't hit him in the head. You can't drive him to the ground. There's so many, like...
But I'll have to find the game. No, this guy literally, he didn't go low. He didn't go high. He just hit him hard in the chest, and they were like, oh, that's a penalty.
And I feel like there's like amendments, right? I feel like they're like the NFL referees have amendments, and it's like 1A, protect the quarterbacks at all cost. 1B, when in doubt, throw the flag anyway, and then 2 is call a fair game. Like, that's what I feel like it is. Like, they prioritize protecting the quarterbacks over calling a fair game, and to me, that's a problem. Not to say, now we just went on a 5-minute tirade about penalties called. Not to say that this game was any different because of any penalties. I mean, this game from start to finish looked like the Texans just completely manhandled the Jags, looked like complete control, and they did not look like the team that's supposed to get the number 1 overall pick that is currently playing without their star quarterback, Deshaun Watson. So I think the Jaguars just completely were blindsided, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the year if the Texans are in a situation like the Jags were last year, where they win their first game, and then maybe they don't win again. Like, that could very well be the case. They got their 1 win under the belt, but after watching the way the Jags played, I'm not too confident myself in some of the expectations we had beforehand. I personally said ceiling was 5. Actually, I said the ceiling was 4. You guys kind of talked me into 5. But I think now 4 kind of looks like what we should expect maybe from this team.
Hey, man, like I said, don't take one game and let's not project the whole season off one game. But like I did say too, those guys are veteran players on the Texans. I feel every year we have a team that's like, that's going to be the number 1 pick. And then, like, we weren't looked at being the worst team last year, but we were. there's always teams that like that's going to be the worst team, and then they end up overperforming because one, they probably get slighted and they feel like, hey, why are you saying that's us? But like we went in last year with Gardner Minshew versus like Tyrod Taylor, who's been in the league a long time. James Robinson, who ended up being great, but he was an undrafted running back versus they have like 3 or 4 guys that have done this in the league. Brandon Cooks is probably a more productive receiver than any of the guys we've had on our team in, a decade. So to me, yeah, it's a slap in the mouth, but I'm not gonna let this narrative for me be that like that's the worst team in the NFL that just beat us. We don't know what they're going to be. It's just like your college football rankings. They get ranked at 32 to start the year, so you think, oh wow, we just got beat by the worst team. They could end up winning like 6 games, and we'll be like, okay, they weren't too bad,
Yeah,
so,
no, that's true, and like this definitely is not comparable to like Alabama beating Vanderbilt or Oklahoma beating Kansas or UCF beating South Florida. Like those games are just complete bloodbaths because the talent disparity is so drastic. In the NFL, I mean, you have 22 guys on each team starting that would likely, for the most part, probably start on another team based on the fact that these are the 1% of football players. Like these are the best players in the league. There's a reason Tyrod Taylor's been around for so long. But I'll just admit it. I was completely wrong about this game from the very beginning. In our last podcast, I mentioned that this should be a walkover. We should stomp them out. There's no excuses. And I was completely wrong. The other way, if Poojie Podcast was a Texans podcast, I would have been spot on. We'll put it that way. But we all got the predictions wrong, obviously. Sam, 31-24. Jacob, 31-17. Justin, 28-24. And here we are, coming off, what was it, 36-21 or something like that? What was the final?
It was 37-21. I'm looking at the game page now because I want to say this. We had 3 main areas, in my opinion, that really, really hurt us in this game. Drops, penalties, turnovers. So we lost by 16. I know that there was a late garbage time touchdown, but we had 10 penalties for 82 yards. The Texans had 5, so they had half the amount of penalties we had. We had 3 turnovers. Obviously, those are the 3 interceptions that Trevor threw. And then what was the other thing I just said?
Drops.
I don't think that's on here. But if you clean up these like mental mistakes, like dropping the ball, the holding, penalizing yourself, and then turnovers, it's like what kind of flip can you make when you don't like we just shot ourselves in the foot not once, twice, but like so many times in 3 different aspects. So hopefully if you look at this next game and think, okay, can we clean up mental errors? Now how do we perform? Because Trevor made some really good throws, hit some like really, really deep shots on some guys. It's like if we can not shoot ourselves in the foot, allow ourselves to run the ball, let Trevor do his thing, maybe this looks like a new team coming into week 2 and we have no idea.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off what you said because I'm pretty sure like the momentum was turning. I think it was like 14-7 or something like that, and Trevor was in command, and then all those drops happened like one after the other, and it just killed. Like, and then the last one was like the worst. The pass to James Robinson, which would have gone for first down, hits him right in the hands. I think he was trying to look where he was going to run before he caught the ball. But, like, that was one of those plays that, James Robinson would have made a million times last year. So it's kind of – that it's just kind of weird.
And it was multiple guys, too. So it was like somehow there was like a funk across the offensive line, the receivers, and then Trevor. There was just like an overall offensive funk. And obviously it was a hard time for the defense with Tyrod being able to run around.
Yeah, and dude, this is what I'm saying. If we're going to win any games, it's not going to be because our defense, like, stopped the other team. I mean, you have Tyrod Taylor and Brandon Cooks. Like, where would you rank them on, like, quarterback, wide receiver duos? Like, probably about average, like, below average, I mean, at best. So, I mean, it's not like we're going to suddenly be able to stop the deep pass or suddenly be able to, like, shut down these wide receivers. So it's going to have to be Trevor getting better and outscoring the other team. So yeah, I mean, do you think
this
have 4 wins on the roster? Like
this is a team defensively that if we win any games, regardless of whatever the record is at the end of the year, our points allowed is probably going to rank in the bottom 25% of the NFL, closer to, 20, probably. I mean, that was 37 there, so I could see teams easily putting up 24 or more per game, which isn't that far-fetched in the NFL these days. I mean, I guess it kind of is in certain aspects, but like, if we're going to win games, it's got to be, 30 to 24, 30 to 28, 30. Like, Trevor Lawrence has to put up numbers, which one bright spot from the game, we just touched on it, was Trevor Lawrence and his ability to make some plays. I mean, there were some the touchdown to Chris Manhertz, who everyone thought was a blocking tight end. That was a beautiful play. I mean, he had some zip on the ball. He got the ball to the spot and pretty much just carried the tight end into the end zone. And there were plays that were being made on offense where Trevor Lawrence was passing the ball, and you couldn't even see the ball on TV in the air because it had so much zip on it. It just got to the receiver, and his release time was so quick, it looked good. So I'm not going to sit here and magnify the 3 interceptions. Yeah, those were some rookie mistakes, and we've said it before. There's going to be games where he has 3 interceptions. Unfortunately for us, it happened to come week 1 against one of the worst teams in the league. So that's the downfall. But the bright side is, okay, he bounced back, made up for it with over 300 yards, made up for it with 3 touchdowns, and then granted, he threw the ball 51 times. I think that, again, comes back to Urban Meyer not really having experience coaching from behind, coaching in the NFL. But what frustrated me, and I want your thoughts on this, I was expecting more coming out of halftime as far as halftime adjustments. Like, it looked like nothing changed in the second half. It looked like everything just remained equal. And the classic saying in football is it's harder for the winning team to make adjustments at halftime because you're doing everything right. So theoretically, the losing team, in that case, us, the Jags, we should have been able to make some sort of changes, some sort of adjustments to at least tighten the game a little bit, to at least make things look a little bit more respectable. And it just did not seem like we did that one bit coming out of halftime, and the game continued to go as it did to a 37-21 loss.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember this because I'm looking at this game log. We let up 27 points in the first half. And one of those, it ended up only being a field goal, I think, when Trevor threw that touchdown or threw that interception on our side of the field. I could be wrong. I'm trying to look at that. But 27 points in the first half. They only ended up having 37. So I'm not like analyzing it all in my head right away, like thinking of like, okay, well, what happened? But that's 10 points let up in the first half. And obviously they might let up off the gas a little bit. I think it's just, you just put yourself in such a big deficit that, like, what was the Jacksonville Jaguars like strategy in 2017? Our defense held down, and then when we got a lead, they could just like rush the quarterback and play some pass coverage, and like it just makes it easy. So it's like, yeah, you shoot yourself in the foot so early. I don't want to say we had great defensive adjustments. I think the defense can produce a little bit better than they did. I think it was hard getting to Tyrod Taylor. I think it's hard stopping Brandon Cooks, like Sam had been saying. What do you guys think of, like, I know we'll get into it more, but like Teddy Bridgewater, like he's not the same mobile quarterback. He can move around. He's not like the same speed. So I hope that, I don't even talk about Kyler Murray in week 3 right now, but it's like, can this pass rush get home when it's not as mobile of a quarterback?
I mean, maybe, but they're outside of a few plays where Josh Allen flashed in the backfield here and there on the edges and stuff like that. There wasn't too much to be excited about just up front. And let me just say this real quick, actually, before we move on to week 2, because I'm down to do that, unless you guys have anything to do with the rest of week 1. Sam, any other frustration to let out?
No, I mean, we can move on to week 2, but yeah, that play where Tyrod Taylor puts Chase on in the blender is just...
Yeah, that was bad.
It's almost hilarious. And then I had to laugh out loud when the second like huge completion went to like Brandon Cooks on a throw that like was so ridiculous that like
it was just a prayer.
You could expect it to be completed like in Madden, like 1 out of every 10 times. And
it was
the second he drops back and puts it up, I was just like, oh well, like that's a completion. And then sure enough, like he pulls down like one of the hardest catches.
I want to say that there's some mental errors there too, because like Brent Martineau, that first Brandon Cooks catch where he like mossed the two guys, those guys were kind of in position. It's like instead of trying to go for a pick, why don't we just deflect the ball? Because it was a 3rd and 9, I think, or it was a 3rd down. So it's like mentally, hey, like we have 2 guys in position to stop Brandon Cooks. We can all try to pick the ball and see whose hands gets on it, or we can have hands trying to swat the ball down.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, how does this team mentally move forward in not making these kind of mistakes or errors? Not trying to be heroes, just making the easy.
I'm gonna give them one like solution, like the second throw down the field to Brandon Cooks. I mean,
that was
like Wingard's like in pursuit, chasing him like from behind, and it's just like, and then he leaps for the ball to try, and it's just like this dude needs to be put in like on the bench, and Cisco needs to play, and
Wingard
Cisco
needs to be gone.
On that play, like imagine if Cisco was in on that play, he would have been. I mean, I think he's just way more athletic. He would have been able to get down the field and put his hands on the ball. Like Dewey didn't even get it like close to like even impacting the play. He was just from behind. Anyway, so that's just like inexcusable. The fact that you have the number 1 rookie safety and you're not playing him, it makes absolutely no sense. Like of all of our rookies, I think Trevor Lawrence is the only one who got any meaningful playing time behind like Tyson Campbell. Like, why are you not getting, especially Cisco, who's looked great all through preseason, is Pro Football Focus #1 rookie. It just doesn't make much sense. Like, why?
Yeah, no, I agree.
And like, why? Like, I mean,
well, I know that, and I just brought it back up right now. I know that was asked of Urban Meyer, and he kind of said, I think that Cisco looks great, but he did come off an ACL, and he said he was on a pitch count in training camp. So it might have been more of like, hey, this is the first time this guy will play in a big, meaningful game. Like he's played in practice where we're not trying to hurt each other. So maybe it's more of like, hey, let's ease him in, because I think it was the second half. Like he came in.
I can deal with that.
Let's see what happens week 2.
All right.
I feel like I just keep saying that with this whole team. Like I feel like this whole team, nobody panic. This is not an overnight thing, obviously. So I just want to see how it develops. If it develops into something good, like we'll be looking at ourselves now and be like laughing, like why were we so worried?
Well, Wingard, when they kept Wingard, I was like, okay, cool, special teams guy, we'll keep him on the team. But then to see him start and play out there, I was like throwing up in my mouth. I'm like, why are we doing this? But then the reality is that's the reality of this roster. Like that's the reality of this team is a guy like Andrew Wingard has to play because the other option coming off a torn ACL, albeit whatever, the talent on this roster is the Andrew Wingard. Like that's where we're at right now as a team. And yeah, things could get better. It is what it is. He's a veteran guy, but at the end of the day, he's the guy that has to be out there making plays, and he simply just cannot do it. I've said it from day one. Get him off the team. Get him on the bench. Find a replacement. I'm sure there's someone on. Is Eric Berry signed anywhere? Bring him in. Do something. Like sign someone that has experience and bring someone in. Second thing is outside of Trevor Lawrence, obviously a rookie quarterback, there's a lot of other young players on this team, and we've been beating that drum for the past 10 years, maybe hindsight should have had my expectations lower simply based on chemistry and real-life game speed, not preseason game speed. I think it's going to take a few games for these guys to mesh and for these guys, like Jacob mentioned with that ball, that pass to Brandon Cooks. I feel like that's a play where 3-4 weeks from now they have things figured out and they know what to do at that point, just based on building more chemistry. So it is what it is. I mean, there's a few bright spots. Marvin Jones looked good. Trevor Lawrence, for the most part, looked good. I don't think anyone's ready to overreact on him. If anything, it would be a positive overreaction. But just like Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence, first game of his career, a 3-interception game. And I think Peyton Manning's stat line his first week that he played was like 150 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 picks. But Peyton Manning did say, when I was a rookie quarterback, I played the entire season, and I wanted to play the entire season to play through the pain, play through the struggle, and learn from it. You don't want to be babied. You don't want to be taken out. You don't want to be catered to. Let these guys play through the struggles and come out better for it on the other end. Let's jump into week 2 versus the Denver Broncos, West Coast team, traveling into Jacksonville. on Sunday the 19th, coming up here in a few days. And typically the Jags have had bad luck going to the West Coast. West Coast teams do not seem to have really much of an issue coming to Jacksonville. That could be in large part due to the quality of the team in some seasons. But what do we think in this? What do we think in this matchup with the Broncos coming off, what was it, a 27-13 victory over another kind of lowly team, the New York Giants?
Like, damn, if Whitney Merciless and whoever the Texans got on the other side of the line are getting to us, just wait until Bradley Chubb and freaking Von Miller get on the field. Like, our tackles are going to be having a fun time. Trevor Lawrence is going to be on the ground, and we are going to have to run the football if we want to stay in the game, which is the coaching staff able to run the ball, on first down? It remains to be seen, but I expect a heavy dose of, James Robinson, try to, stymie that pass rush because they're going to be coming after him for sure. And, yeah.
Go for it, Jacob.
I just was going to say, I think he's right. I think, people like Von Miller I just think that I kind of want to see what happened in like preseason week 3, where all of a sudden the plays we're calling were a lot of motioning Trevor out of the pocket, by design, and trying to get him away from that to potentially make some plays outside of the pocket and not just be like a lame duck and just wait for a pass rush. He did make some good plays under pressure in terms of like, stepping up in the pocket and just throwing, darts. But it's like, I want to see the play calling potentially keep him out of finding out if the pass rush will hit, and more like moving him out of the pocket or doing quick things to avoid that and just, take advantage of what Trevor's arm can be.
Yeah. No, hopefully they do open it up a little bit, and hopefully maybe they were just kind of holding back week 1 a little bit. What's up, Maddie? We got Maddie in the house. His team won. His team won big week 1. We'll get into that in a little bit, but here's the interesting thing. Let me read you guys some stats real quick from that Broncos-Giants game. Obviously, the Broncos have to be looking at this matchup probably as a little bit easier than the Giants, if not a very similar defense, just as far as composition goes. Broncos, Teddy Bridgewater, 2 touchdowns on 255 yards passing. Not like he went out there and slung the rock a lot, but they did have 420 total yards of offense, which is pretty impressive, but about 40% of that came from running the football. Okay, so the Broncos ran the football well against the Giants and controlled the clock. 35 minutes time of possession versus 25. So that's 10 minutes disparity. You don't typically see that often in the NFL, just based on how teams can typically find their balance and kind of control the game in their own right. 10 minutes is a long time. That's almost 2 full drives more in most cases, sometimes 3 more drives. So they had the ball for 10 minutes longer than the Giants did. And then what's even more interesting is they only had 7 more plays than the New York Giants did. So they won 27-13. They controlled the clock 10 minutes more than the Giants did and had the same amount of passing yards, but the run game for the Broncos is what won it for them. 165 yards on the ground and only 7 more plays. I think this is going to be the type of game where that front 7 for the Jags have to show up. We didn't necessarily expect it for the Texans game, but I think we're in a situation where the front 7 for the Jags is going to have to step up and stop Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, given the fact that Jerry Jeudy is going to be out for this game.
Let's go. I think that's the strength of our team right now. It's our run defense. So,
well, we let up a lot last week, but it was because of Tyrod.
Did we?
Well. Yeah, apparently it was like 160 yards. It didn't feel like it, but
we're talking about us. Mark Ingram just went off on us.
Something I'm excited to see. I just was I was gonna bring up DJ Chark before we kind of transitioned, and I still kind of want to. Ronald Darby of the Broncos was placed on injured reserve. I guess he was dealing with a hamstring issue that, he got put on IR, probably short term. So being down a corner, that could be in our favor, because I think DJ Chark is going to be a lot better than what we saw. He had 3 catches for 86 yards. But how many targets did he have? Do you guys know?
I would say 8.
12 targets. And he only caught 3 balls and still led the team with 86 yards. That means they're really
Chark?
pushing it down. Yeah, pushing it downfield with him. So imagine if he had at least like 3 or 4 more catches of those 12 targets. I think if we can take advantage of Chark on whoever is like filling in as like a starting corner,
You mean
that
the
is.
number one rookie corner that came out of the draft, Patrick Surtain?
I heard a key word, and that was rookie. Let's take advantage of a rookie
Right.
corner with who I think is still the best receiver on the team. I really love Laviska, but seeing 3 catches for 86 yards when he dropped how many balls and had 12 total targets, it just makes me think, what are the possibilities for DJ Chark? I almost feel this is going to be a thing where we might have to open up the run game by getting some passes early, because their run defense, I think, is gonna hold us down.
Yeah. No, you're spot on. And I mean, you do have to take advantage of the rookie cornerback, but he was obviously a top 10 pick for a reason. So we'll see what kind of damage can be done. And nine non-catches, I guess. So 3 catches on 12 targets, however many of those were drops, whatever it is, what it is. I mean, they do have to get the passing game going. Like that is what's going to win us games, but you can't do it to the extent of making your rookie quarterback throw the ball 51 times and try and take over the game. You have to do it with intelligence, and you have to do it the right way and make sure there's a good balance both ways.
Absolutely.
And the Broncos front 7 is one of the best in the league. Like, they've always had a good defense. They've been known for that, and in large part due to Von Miller, and then they go get Bradley Chubb. They didn't get worse. Like, they're getting better. They're a good team. I just hope it's a situation where we are so in the depths right now, we are so low on this team that they can come out and maybe surprise us, maybe at least just keep it close in the first half and just be in a situation where we feel like we can still win the game at almost any point in the game. It never felt that way with the Houston Texans game. I hope that we can play to a way of keeping it close, and maybe it comes down to a final drive. Maybe it comes down to Trevor Lawrence making some plays, but we will have the home crowd behind us. I know a lot of people here are eager to get back to the stadium. It's been since the beginning of August that we've had a home game. We had the preseason week 1 game, and now we'll have, week 2 against the Broncos at home as well. So it's going to be I think an interesting game, but I think like the word for it is just a mysterious game. Like, judging teams after week 1 is so difficult because you have all offseason to prepare for one team. So
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how these teams kind of prepare within a week, especially with the Broncos coming over on from Denver. So, Sam, any thoughts from you on this game?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that Jerry Jeudy went down, but in that same draft, they drafted KJ Hamler in the 3rd round. So now you have, another 4-3 guy, or this guy's 4-3 speed deep receiver, and Jags have shown an inability, I should say, to stop the deep pass. So I mean, we'll see that full on display. I guarantee you guys, there's going to be a few of those mixed in, deep balls to KJ Hamler. This kid is fast, so you'll see a lot of that. And then, like I said, I want to see the Jags, commit to the run game and slow down that pass rush and not, put Trevor Lawrence in like a situation where it's obvious that we're passing and that they can just come off the edge.
Yeah.
and deal their
Something
damage.
else I'm actually really curious to see, because I have no idea what he's doing in practice. But we still signed Duke Johnson to the practice squad. I would love to see him get activated and come in as a 3rd back. And that's a guy that can almost be an extension of the run game by those quick, short little passes out of the backfield that I think could help a team like the Jags with their potential offensive line struggles. And it might even just be a benefit to Trevor being like, yeah, we tried to throw a couple balls to James, and he caught a lot of balls last year because he was the only guy. And I don't think Carlos Hyde's ever been a receiving back. I would love to see Duke Johnson get promoted. He's played plenty in this league. I'm not worried about him, being rusty or whatever, because look what happened last week. I think that would be a great asset for us as soon as possible if we could get a guy like Duke Johnson out of the backfield to catch passes and just like move around like we would have with ETN.
Yeah. No, at this point, why not? Like, try it. Like, let's do it, and like, let's just get him out there to catch some passes and see what happens. We'll see what happens this week, week 2. We'll get to predictions here in a second. Let's do this real quick, just around the NFL from last week. 15-second reactions. Jacob, Thursday Night Football, Cowboys at Bucks. Bucks win it 31-29. 15-second instant reaction. Not instant, post-humorous reaction. Go for it.
Well, I mean, obviously the humorous part is I started Ronald Jones and against all of your wishes. However, I still won my fantasy matchup, so it didn't even matter. But I think what I got out of that game is Tampa is still very good. They returned all of their starters. I expect them to make a run at another Super Bowl if they can. But Dak throwing for like over 400 yards against that defense, I can't wait to see what he does against other defenses.
Yeah, he's the real deal.
Yeah, if he threw 400 yards against that defense, who's he going to torch every week?
In his first game back. I mean,
they looked good. I would say, in my opinion, that is the number 2 team for me right now as far as overperforming in week 1, which leads me to the Eagles-Falcons. Eagles, number 1 overperforming team for me in week 1, 32-6 over the Falcons, just absolutely dominated from start to finish. Jalen Hurts looked good, even better. Devontae Smith looked good. The defense looked good. Everything about the Eagles looked good in that victory.
Minshew effect.
Gardner goes there, and now what?
I like that.
It's
obvious.
Eagles dominate. Sam, what about you? Steelers 23, Bills 16. Not sure if you got to catch any of this or read any about this game.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
I watch all the games. You guys know this.
I know.
Simultaneously on multiple screens. So the Steelers, I think that they were kind of underrated coming into the season, and they just showed you that their defense isn't taking a step back. Their offense, if anything, seems a little more, what should I say, like, I guess fluid. Like they have now a run game that they can kind of go to. They are forming a little bit more chemistry between Ben Roethlisberger and this, the rookie or the first-year player, Chase Claypool. And I think that they could surprise a lot of people because, one, I mean, they're the Steelers. They're going to be well coached. And then their defense is a lot better than people thought. But I would say that the most interesting game for me was, like you said, that Eagles-Falcons game, because the Eagles really did, come out and look like an actual playoff / championship team. The way that they just, meshed together, their defense played really well. Their run defense, their passing game.
They have good
They got
the
rookies involved. They play their
everything
rookies.
looked good.
So
Everything looked good for them.
Yeah.
I would say Steelers over Bills was probably the upset of week 1. I want to just touch on this real quick. Bengals over Vikings, 27-24 in overtime in what was the most Bengals-Vikings game of all time that you could ever imagine. Almost went down to a week 1 tie. Fun fact for you, the Bengals have never scored a touchdown in overtime in franchise history. So take that for what it's worth. They've never once scored a touchdown in overtime in franchise history, and I think they're involved in 4 of the last 5 ties in the NFL. Jacob, Cardinals, Titans, your boy Kyler. Cardinals whooping the Titans 38-13. What was the bigger surprise, the margin of victory or the fact that the Titans looked completely incompetent?
I want to say the fact that the Titans looked as bad as they did, because I'm not sure what it is, and this week will tell me. Is it that the Titans, lost a step, or losing their offensive coordinator changes things? Or is the Cardinal, did they just make a big jump? Because obviously I love Kyler. I think he's a great quarterback. He's one of the most mobile, if not the most, and he's still a cannon. But that defense, Chandler Jones had 5 sacks. And if they have something on defense, and then Kyler throwing to Hopkins, Kirk, who was it? Is it which more is it?
Rondell Moore.
Rondell Moore.
Yep. And I want to see if Arizona just has taken a massive jump up, or are the Titans potentially going down? And I think the Titans can rebound, but I'd love to see what happens in week 2 with both of these teams.
You mentioned Chandler Jones there. I think he's one of 3 players in NFL history, or at least since they kept stats, or 1980 or something. Yeah. One of 3 players in NFL history to have 4 or more sacks in 3 games within their career. So pretty impressive from Chandler Jones there. He dominated.
Trying to trade him?
Yeah.
Wasn't that a thing? We could have traded for Chandler Jones, and maybe he
the next Calais Campbell.
Then we win the game.
Seahawks take care of the Colts. No surprise there. Carson Wentz does not look good. Chargers beat Washington football team. Ryan Fitzpatrick out for 8 weeks. Panthers beat the Jets. Sam Darnold avenges his old team. Obviously, we went to Texans Jaguars. Sam, let's get to you. Chiefs over Browns. That was the 4 o'clock game. That was a part of the no, it was not a part of the three-piece combo meal. But Chiefs over the Browns 33-29. Quick thoughts on that game, Sam?
The Browns had every opportunity to win. It wasn't just the screwed up punt. There were several incompletions that should have been catches from Baker Mayfield. Just inept. It's right when you had they were up all game, and then you have the chance to win the game multiple times. And you'd expect a team like the Browns, who really want to win, obviously, to take advantage of at least the first or second chance. But I'm pretty sure there were like 3 separate chances where they could have won, and then they blew it. The main one being that punt that they couldn't get off, and then which was weird. It's like the guy mishandled it, but he still had time to kick it. But for some reason, he ran out, and then he was definitely screwed at that point. It was like you could have just you're fine, bro, but he freaked out. Anyways, but yeah, dude, Patrick Mahomes looks fucking like Patrick Mahomes, and it was fun to watch him. But yeah,
I was about to say.
Sad. I mean, the Browns are going to be a good team. It's just it's that Baker Mayfield, is he the guy? Is he really going to make everyone around him better? Whereas it seems to me everyone's kind of looking at Baker Mayfield to be, better than he is. And to kind of take more control toward the end of the game and be like people were saying about Jalen Hurts. It looks like Jalen Hurts is complete control of the offense, whereas Baker Mayfield's just you're looking for a little bit more from him. It's just not there, and it's toward the end of the game when you really need him to step up, and it's almost like he never does. But
yeah, he just doesn't have that it factor. He needs that it factor.
Right.
Honestly, that game was like the game of the expected. We expected the Chiefs to come back and win. We expected the Browns to blow it, and that's exactly what happened because that's what those two teams are made of. Do we have Maddie in the house? Does he want to touch on the Dolphins for us?
Do you want to touch on the Dolphins? He said that he said it's expected, and he only expects wins now.
Only expects wins. Maddie's got them going 17-0. The only undefeated team in NFL history does it twice. 17-16 over the Patriots. A big win. I mean, just a defensive battle, a big win. Mac Jones' first game. Again, like Jacob mentioned.
New England.
In New England.
It was in New England.
And like Jacob mentioned earlier, no rookie quarterback has won their opening debut week 1 since 2002. And Mac Jones.
So that stat is actually the number 1 overall pick, the quarterback.
Yeah. Did I say first round quarterback?
You said first round. You said
first overall.
Rookie.
Just
You
to get it
said
clear,
rookie quarterback.
Number one pick.
Number 1 pick.
Well, at any rate, all.
No, and the reason why I was thinking, Justin, is because what you say, if a team has the first overall pick, they have that pick for a reason. They suck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They need that pick, and then that
So
guy's gonna come into a team that sucks ass.
The stat sounds a lot worse than it is. The stat sounds so much worse than it is. But all 5 rookie quarterbacks did lose this week, whether they started or not. All 5 of those rookie quarterback teams lost. The Jags, the Jets, the Bears, the 49ers, they ended up winning, but he didn't start the game. And then Mac Jones and the Patriots lost. So interesting there. Big win for the Dolphins, though. I'm excited to watch them this week against Buffalo. Another divisional matchup for them. This could be huge for their. Not only that, the Bills lost week 1. So if they win again, the Bills now start 0-2. The Dolphins start 2-0. That's a lot of ground to make up with a 17-game season. Saints completely destroy the Packers 38-3 here in Jacksonville. That just Aaron Rodgers looked like he was ready to just go host Jeopardy. And the Saints, Jameis Winston, 5 touchdowns. Just unbelievable. Leading candidate for league MVP after week 1, Jameis Winston. Rams destroyed the Bears. And Jacob, did you get to watch the whole Monday night game or no?
I think I did. I forget because was I at your house or no? I think I stayed
you were here till halftime.
Yeah, I think I stayed up for it just because at the end of the game I just wanted to see. I was like, oh, there's 5 minutes left. I really think the Rams might be one of the best calls out of the NFC for a Super Bowl because that defense is crazy good, and I feel like they've just unlocked their offense again with Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is head and above better than Jared Goff. When they made the trade, I was like, they instantly upgraded that. It's so obvious that he's better than Jared Goff. And now you got him throwing to people like Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. You got the running back. Yep, Higbees. You got the running back, Darrell Henderson. They will get him going just because that offense gets their running backs going. This team might be one of the most complete teams, if not the most complete team in my eyes, in the league. They're dangerous.
Yeah, I feel like there were so many storylines surrounding week 1 that a lot of people haven't even talked about Matt Stafford because it was such a blowout, 34-14, and he just looks completely in his element. He looks like he should have been a Ram from day one, looks like he should have been living in Los Angeles from day one, but now he is there, so we'll see what happens. Raiders-Ravens. Raiders get the job done after trailing 14, scored 17 fourth-quarter points. I really hope Matt cannot hear me out in the living room right now, so I'm going to talk a little bit lower. It was insane.
That was a crazy game.
It was insane. It was 14-point comeback by the Raiders. Goes into overtime. Raiders score what looked like the game-winning touchdown down at the 1 foot line.
Everybody runs on the field and shakes hands.
Lamar Jackson is already trading his jersey with his boys. Like, everyone's already going crazy. They call him down. Alex Leatherwood, the rookie for the Raiders, false start, back to the 5-yard line. Derek Carr into the end zone for the win. Off the hands of the receiver, I think it was Willie Snead, off the helmet of the Ravens defensive back. The Ravens intercepted in the end zone for a touchback. Ravens get the ball now with like 3 minutes left in overtime. Lamar Jackson fumbles it on 3rd down. Raiders get the ball back. They're on like the 30-yard line. They run out. This is the best part. They run out the kicking team on 2nd down to try and kick the field goal, and they get a delay of game. And then they end up they end up going for it and just hit like a 48-yard bomb to win. The Raiders win 33-27 over the Ravens. So crazy week 1, a really fun week 1. Week 2, let's get to that unless you guys have anything else for week 1, Jags or anything.
No, we're good.
No? Let's get to week 2 predictions, Jags versus Broncos real quick. Sam, if you want to start us off, Jags, Broncos predictions.
Oh, shoot. All right, let's go. Ooh, I'm gonna go here. I've thought about this a lot. You can tell. Let's go 26-28 Broncos.
Okay.
So 28 to 26.
I'm trying to do this for Broncos. I'm trying to do a reverse psychology on this. I'm gonna say Broncos when I really want the Jags to win. Just like last week, I did the opposite. And yeah, so.
I like it. Jacob, what about you?
Good.
Well, I actually picked the Jags last week because I thought they would win. However, I think the Broncos are a better team going into the season. I'm going to put it maybe 31-24 Broncos.
Alrighty. And I'm going to go with 27-20 Broncos here. I think the Broncos running game just dominates the football in the second half, and I think they get the job, take care of it, get the job done there. And let's do our Poojie podcast 3-piece combo games for this week. We got some good games lined up. We have Rams at Colts.
Yeah.
What?
Missed it last week. You'd only put the ad up like once. I missed it. Usually you slap that thing up like everywhere. And it's on
the Instagram page, and then I post it on the story every time someone sends me a submission. I put like one up. So we had 25 entries last week. This week we have, let's see, week 1 game. All right. Maybe just Bills at Dolphins. 1 o'clock games. Week 2, 1 o'clock games. Honestly, looking at these, Bills at Dolphins kind of looks like the best option.
That'll be fun. Yeah.
All right, let's do that. Bills, Dolphins. All right, and then let's go 4 o'clock game. We have, let's see here, Vikings, Cardinals, Falcons, Bucks, Cowboys, Chargers, Titans, Seahawks, Chiefs. Well, Chiefs-Ravens is definitely going to be on there for the Sunday night.
You got to go that Cowboys-Chargers game, bro.
I was going to say that one looks pretty.
Are we thinking
juicy.
that? Okay, Dallas in Chargers. All right, so those are our 3. Those are our 3 picks. The 3-piece combo contest. Pick the winner. Pick the over/under. Pick the total turnovers. The contest is on the Instagram and on Facebook. You can find it on the story. You can find it on the page at the Poojie Podcast. Definitely go check that contest out. It's free to enter. You win some merchandise. It's a lot of fun, and it gives you something to kind of follow throughout the day. So go check out the Poojie Podcast on Instagram for that. Bills at Dolphins, 1 o'clock. Cowboys at Chargers, 4 o'clock. Chiefs at Ravens, 8 o'clock. We'll see if Lamar Jackson can finally get over Patrick Mahomes, that Patrick Mahomes curse. Anything else for you guys before we head out for the evening?
Yeah, just quick on what you just said about can Lamar Jackson overcome Patrick Mahomes. I just need Lamar Jackson doesn't throw the ball. well enough. Like when you talk about Kyler Murray, like running around like he does, but he still has a cannon of an arm. Like I just don't see that yet from Lamar Jackson. Like I feel like he just throws sidearm little 5-yard routes and like does things, and then he runs around. It looks crazy, but I think Patrick Mahomes is just gonna.
Yeah, but Lamar Jackson has the ability to score like himself from anywhere on the field. So it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, you got Kyler Murray who can, does he really have that speed? But I see what you're saying. I'd probably rather have Kyler Murray.
Well, honestly, not many exciting games this week, just based on the spread, based on the matchup. So it is nice.
That Jags game though.
It is nice to be capped off by Chiefs-Ravens on Sunday night, and then a doozy on Monday night, Lions at Packers. I know we're all excited to see that.
That could be a close game for all we know.
We're all excited to see if the Packers can respond.
What about that Thursday night game, though? You got the Giants versus the Washington football team, bro. That's going to be lit right there, bro. Everyone's two favorite teams to watch.
Everyone loves watching the NFC East on primetime because they're just the best division in all of football, and if you say otherwise, you're not an American.
And see, I can't. It's kind of me saying that I'm a Jags fan, but yeah, nobody wants to watch us either. And I
know. I hear you. That's why we're always on at 1 o'clock. But anyways, guys, thank you for being here. Thanks for doing this Week 1 recap. Look forward to recapping maybe a Jaguars victory in Week 2 of the NFL season over the Broncos. Fans out there listening, thank you for supporting the podcast. Thank you for subscribing and listening on the go on your podcast streaming platform. Go enjoy some Thursday night football this evening. Go enjoy some NFL football this Sunday and maybe even some college football as well. UCF playing at Louisville on Friday night, the marquee game of Friday night, so that'll be fun. Alabama playing at the Swamp versus the Gators in Week 1 or in Week 3, I guess, of the college football season. And then you also have Auburn at Penn State, which for some reason is now the college game day. So until next time, thanks for being here. Go enjoy your weekend, but most importantly, go make this world a better place and take care.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?